Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a smile. Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, be the reason someone smiles. Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a smile. Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, be the reason someone smiles. Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a smile. Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, be the reason someone smile. Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, give a smile. Give a schmeichel, give a schmeichel, be the reason someone smile. Siva gedola, liot liot besimcha. Siva gedola, liot liot besimcha. Siva gedola, liot liot besimcha. Siva gedola, liot besimcha. Siva gedola, liot 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 besimcha. Be the reason someone smiles. Be the reason someone smiles. Be the reason someone smiles. Be the reason someone smiles.
Breakfast with Elli.
Mode ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechezarta bi nishmati b'chemla raba emunatecha.
I did cry when I left, and I said to Hashem, like, what did I just spend the last 10 years of my life doing? Did I just waste 10 years? Where will I ever use these skills again? For what?
You're using them now. You know, you've taken Asian to the future in terms of
Correct.
In terms of like
But
everything.
it took so long to figure it out. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I sat there and I was like, what a waste of 10 years. And I have to say, every moment of my life has led up to this.
All right, look at that. What is that craziness going on here? All right. Well, good morning and welcome to Breakfast with Elli. It is Monday, the 22nd day of August, the 25th day of Menachem Av. The Torah portion is Re'eh, HaYom Yom Sheini L'Shabbos, second day counting up towards Shabbos, to be learning the second Aliyah, and that was professional chef and cookbook author Jamie Geller on whether or not she wasted time in going to culinary school. Amazing, right? What did I just do? All right, let us do something. You like the sunrise in the background there? Sunrise over the savannah. I guess that's what it is. I don't know. Let's do a mitzvah. All right, onemitzvah.org, onemitzvah.org. Sign up today. All right, take our two front sitzes together. Let's go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvat tzitzit.
Right. Al divrei Torah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al divrei Torah.
Right. Mekabel.
Hareini mekabel alai mitzvat aseh shel ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. I take upon myself every single day to love my fellow friend in a very special way.
Torah tziva lanu.
Ay Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov. Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov.
All right, and it's time to give tzedakah.
I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki for someone else to keep. Yeah, I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki for someone else in need.
Okay, thank you. All right, time to say the Shema. Ready? Put your right hand over your eye.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
All right, and that brings us to delicious breakfast. All right, are you ready? I've got coffee and yogurt. What do you have? Let's make a bracha shahakol. Other brachas are listed right here on the screen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shahakol nihiyah b'dvarei. All right, fantastic. Ah, yes, delicious. Okay. And that brings us to today in Jewish history. All right. What do we have for you today? I'm sure I have something here. Ah, yes. No? Okay, well, we've got a daily thought. All right, daily thought for today. Today was a quiet day in Jewish history. Apparently. Good morning, Alan. Alan K. has joined us, and I don't know if he's here or not. I don't see him. All right. There we go. Good morning, Alan. All right. The Ari, the holy Ari, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, the greatest of all the Kabbalists, taught that the prerequisite for the completion of the cosmos was a complete and utter withdrawal from the primordial infinite light. And only then could a finite light trickle to generate and sustain a universe. That is called tzimtzum. All the light was withdrawn. There's no information, no revelation, no enlightenment, but for an infinitesimal afterglow attainable to all those who toil for a lifetime. But the origin of light, the essential core of reality, that was never taken away. It's always accessible, everywhere, at all times, to all beings and all things. But what do we call that essential reality? Well, the Rebbe says, we call it you. You are that essential reality. Tzimtzum, a very, very heavy Kabbalistic concept that Hashem had to withdraw, contract himself in order to make room for a universe. I know. All right, the girls' camp, one of the Chabad girls' camp, has been exploring the Holy Temple in something called Torah VR. And I've got that video for you someplace. Here we go.
וכל העם והכהנים היו מלווים אותו לביתו ויום טוב לאוהביו כי נסלח לכל עדת ישראל אשרי העם שככה לו אשרי העם שהשם אלוקיו אשרי העם שככה לו אשרי העם שהשם אלוקיו אשרי העם כל הנמתח בדרם שומעים את שם השם המפורש יוצא מפי כהן גדול היו קוראים משתחווים ונופלים על פניהם ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
Pretty cool, right? Exploring the Beis HaMikdash in VR. I thought you would like that. All right, that brings us to today's HaYom for the 25th day of the month of Av. And we still have slow hard drive today. Yes, indeed. Here we go.
Some mitzvahs are the equal responsibility of men and women, while other mitzvahs are directed
וכל העם והכהנים היו מלווים אותו לביתו
Some mitzvahs are the equal responsibility of men and women, while other mitzvahs are directed commanded to men specifically. One example of this is the mitzvah to study Torah. The mitzvah to study Torah is technically an obligation to men alone, and women are exempt from this mitzvah. Nevertheless, says today's HaYom, the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Rebbe of Chabad, wrote that when a new baby girl is born and you say Mazel Tov and you want to offer the traditional blessing that we wish somebody upon the birth of a new baby, and you say, may you grow this child, may you raise this child to the study of Torah, says the Rebbe Rashab, that is an appropriate blessing, an appropriate wish to offer to somebody who's had a baby girl as well, even though technically this young lady will not be obligated to study Torah in the same way that men are obligated to fulfill this mitzvah. Women, according to the Talmud, also have a critical role in this mitzvah and a share in the merits that the mitzvah of the study of Torah brings. As the Gemara explains, that by virtue of a woman encouraging her children to study Torah, encouraging her husband and being a support to her husband in his studies, by virtue of doing these things, the woman too shares a part in the great schus, the great merit that the study of Torah, this special mitzvah, brings. Now, the Rebbe would also emphasize that even though the general mitzvah of Torah study does not apply to women in the same way that it does to men, there are many aspects of the Torah that the women are obligated to learn. Anything that has relevance to the observance of the mitzvahs that a woman needs to observe. Anything that is relevant to the outlook. So if a woman is obligated to run a kosher home, if a woman is obligated, which she is, to have love of Hashem and fear of Hashem, the only way to properly fulfill these mitzvahs is to learn about what a kosher home means, to learn about Hashem and what it means to have love and fear of Hashem. So these are huge aspects of Torah learning that apply equally to men and to women as well. And in these areas of Torah, women are encouraged to study, explore, and experience.
I like that. I think everybody's obligated in this. All right, breaking news. What's been approved in the United Kingdom is different than the shot that is given in the United States for a booster. The UK has a different Omicron-specific booster that U.S. officials hope to release this fall. Here in the U.S., the FDA has asked vaccine developers to target the Omicron subvariants known as BA4 and BA5, the two strains that currently make up the vast majority of cases here. Rather than focus on the original subvariants, which swept across the country last winter. Yeah, the Moderna shot appeared Monday in the UK was less effective as BA5, though it still generated a good immune response against the strain, according to researchers. Now, British regulators also found that the side effects of the bivalent vaccine were similar to that of the original Moderna vaccine, typically mild and self-resolving, and there were no serious safety concerns. Now, why does the United States want different boosters? Well, the bivalent booster, or bivalent booster, I'm not sure, along with a similar one made by Pfizer and BioNTech, is more effective against the newer variants of the virus than the original vaccines. But these shots were designed around the original variant, and as a result, they are less effective against BA4 and BA5. The original Omicron variant emerged in late 2021 and helped drive the massive wave of infections during last year's holiday season. It has since mutated into a handful of different subvariants that one by one came to dominate the caseload. Now, the BA5 subvariant is dominant in the United States, comprising nearly 90% of all cases. The rapid shift in the makeup of the virus has been a moving target for health officials trying to direct vaccine policy, according to Dr. Anthony Fauci, the top virologist in the United States. All right. I really don't have a lot for you today. It's kind of quiet out there, and I'm kind of happy about that. We have time today then for and now this.
Big news in the world of tiny structures. Scientists may have reached the theoretical limit of how strong this particular material can get, designing the first ever super light carbon nanostructure that's stronger than diamond. Okay, I feel like here at Seeker we talk a lot about carbon nano stuff, but what do those words actually mean? Well, carbon is a famously versatile element in the diversity of structures it can take, from graphite like in the tip of a pencil to a diamond. Both are just pure carbon, but with atoms arranged in different patterns. So carbon nanostructure literally means any arrangement of carbon atoms that results in something that can be measured on the nanometer scale, and that has novel or improved properties or functions because of its size. That includes carbon nanotubes, fullerenes, 2D graphene, carbon nanoparticles, and something called carbon nanohorns, which sounds really fun. This latest development in the nano world of carbon comes from a team that has designed something called carbon plate nanolattices. Under a scanning electron microscope, they look like little cubes. And the math indicated that this structure would be incredibly strong, but the difficulty of making it meant that it had never actually been done until now. This team's success was made possible by a 3D printing process called 2-photon polymerization direct laser writing, which is quite a mouthful. This is essentially 3D printing on the level of atoms and photons, which is definitely the coolest thing I've heard about this week. The technique focuses a laser inside a droplet of resin that is sensitive to ultraviolet light. The droplet is bombarded with 2 photons at a time, hence the name, that prints the resin into a solid. The team can use this process to create a particular arrangement of carbon struts and braces that make the structure uniquely strong and light, as well as enabling it to be a closed cell structure. This has been incredibly difficult to achieve so far in the manufacturing process. Like, usually these nanostructures have to be constructed around a cylindrical scaffold, resulting in a shape called beam nanolattices. This seemingly small shift from a beam to a plate structure results in a lattice that's a whopping 639% stronger and 522% more rigid. This means the new design approaches the Suket and Hashin-Strickman upper bounds, which is a fancy way of saying this type of design proved to be just about as strong and tough as it gets. Like, we think this tiny carbon nanostructure is the strongest a material this porous can ever be. And we made it in the lab with a laser. This is the first time a material that reaches those limits has ever been experimentally verified. One of the scientists on this team put it really neatly when they said that at this size, a structure like this essentially becomes a crystal, reducing its flaws and making it stronger. That's why these nanomaterials can be so freaking strong. In this case, stronger than diamond. But how can a material so small possibly be of any use on a larger scale? Well, incredibly strong nanomaterials in general promise great leaps forward in many fields, from medicine to electronics. But these carbon plate nanolattices in particular could transform fields like aerospace engineering because of their incredible strength while still maintaining a very low density, perfect for flying into space. But there's a long way to go before we see these actually used in something like a spacecraft. If you thought just making one cube was hard, thinking about scaling that up to industrialized quantities. Not an easy task. This is just the first proof of concept for yet another carbon nano wonder material, but with experiments like these yielding exciting results, I think we're well on our way to a tiny and mighty world. And fun fact, scientists have actually been making nanostructures out of carbon for the past 35-ish years, since Proto, Smalley, and Curl discovered how to do it and won the Nobel Prize for it. If you have other carbon nanostructure news you want us to cover, let us know over on Twitter and Instagram. We're at Seeker, and I'm on there too, at MarinB or at Marin Hansberger. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
And now, a word from our sponsors. PestProRidol.com.
PestProRidol.com. Trusted by the best to keep away the pests. We are offering COVID-19 disinfection services. Mention this ad and get 1 month free service. Visit us at PestProRidol.com.
Tarzane Group. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Go to tarzanegroup.com or call Tomas at 305-440-0565. That's 305-440-0565 and order today. Visit Tomas and Yair at tarzanegroup.com. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Beautiful in your home. Go to the website and read Tomas's orchid blog. And by Dina D Design. DinaDDesign@gmail.com. Fine artwork, custom made to your specifications, logos, wall hangings, Judaica, and you can even have something for your child's room. Dina D Designs. Go to her Facebook or Instagram or call or text. Thank you very much to our sponsors. If you'd like to become a sponsor, please go right up here to where it says patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, and you can contribute even only $1 a month if you'd like, but that'll help us bring this broadcast to you on a daily basis and cover our expenses. Be sure to thank your sponsors when shopping and mention Breakfast with Elli when you're shopping there. There might be discounts. Thanks for watching.
Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe.
All right, patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, or breakfastwithelli.live/tipjar. By the way, if you're listening on one of our audio platforms, I have the volume muted. So if you would like to speak, go to the discussion section. There's a discussion section, and you can type your question out, and I will give you an answer, either written or verbal, depending on the nature of the question. All right? Parshas Re'eh. What gives us pause about Parshas Re'eh is its name, which means to see. See, before you I set today the blessing and the curses. Now, as we saw in the preceding two parshas, Moshe asked Hashem to let the Jewish people perceive divinity as he did, with the same direct clarity associated with sight. But Hashem refused his request. The generation of the conquest, and thus all subsequent generations until the final redemption with Mashiach, would only be able to perceive divinity indirectly, in the manner of hearing. Now, how is it then that Moshe begins the next portion of his address with the saying, see? As we've explained previously, the reason Hashem did not grant Moshe's request, but instead kept the people at the level of hearing, was on account of the inherent advantages of hearing over sight. When a person has to establish and preserve divine consciousness by struggling against the din of the material world. So his perception becomes infinitely more profound than it could have been had it been solely based on or directly based on a direct but external revelation. Let's do that sentence again. I'm sorry. When a person has to establish and preserve divine consciousness by struggling against the din of the material world, his perception becomes infinitely more profound than it could have been had it been solely based on a direct but external revelation. Inasmuch as the purpose of creation is to infuse divinity into all strata of reality, it's clear that this goal can only be accomplished if our divine consciousness assumes command over all our mental and emotional facilities or faculties. This, of course, can only happen if we refine these faculties, reorienting them away from the materialistic perspective that they initially possess. We're going to stop there for today. In the second Aliyah, yeah, that's what I thought. Clown. What a clown. All right. Ayushi Verma has earned himself a ban from our room. All right. In the second Aliyah, although it is forbidden to offer sacrifices in any one location other than the one designated by God, it is permitted to slaughter cattle for consumption purposes, but the blood may never be eaten. Here we have the prohibition against eating blood. The consumption of various tiles and sundry sacred foods is also restricted to the designated holy city, which we later will learn is Jerusalem. Here's Shnayim Yomi for today.
Parashat Re'eh, we are now reading the Sheini. In this Aliyah, it's very, very interesting how the Torah will be focused on one idea, and that is achilat basar, the eating of the meat. And it's introduced even by a word called ki te'aveh nafshecha le'echol basar, when you'll have the desire to eat meat. Every man wants to enjoy his steak. We love to eat meat. And the Torah is taking this example to once again show us that in everything that we face in life, including the devarim hamutarim, the allowed actions and foods, we should know that there is a good and there is bad as well. And the Torah says very clearly, in the meat which I allow you to eat, you should know that there is a way that you'll have to elevate this meat, and that meat will become eventually a korban. You'll have the ability to take this korban and to take it to the Beit HaMikdash, to elevate it all the way to a korban olah, to a way to connect with Borei Olam. Or has v'shalom, the meat can be a reason to be a kelala. How is that? So many times in this Aliyah we'll have the concept of rak hazak levilti achol hadam, do not consume blood. In the meat you have something called blood. The blood is actually the part that is has v'shalom very dangerous for the neshama. Ki nefesh habasar badam hi. A person who would consume blood will be has v'shalom influenced by what he eats. He will be attracted to cruelty, and that is again an aspect where in one entity, in one object, one item, we can have the Bracha and the Kelala. And the Torah is calling us to be vigilant, to understand that there is this idea of being aware that you have the Bracha in everything that we face, and it's up to us to either elevate or has v'shalom to take the risk to not do so.
Ki hadam hu hanefesh, because the blood is the soul, and therefore we don't eat it. All right, moving on to, you know what? We have a Michael Kegel today. Perfect timing.
Where is your private little Jerusalem?
Well, isn't that a big old Sheila Amerikait? I mean, when you grow up in the big old US of A, Jerusalem can seem pretty small. But here we are in the Cardo, initially built by the Emperor Hadrian in the 2nd century. It's certainly no Times Square, although it was the hub of ancient economic life. But wow, look at these pillars. Pretty big, no?
Right, but I didn't mean little in a pejorative or even...
But hey, come with me. Let me show you the Rambam synagogue.
Or even comparative sense.
This way, this way.
You mean Ramban, right?
Wow, founded in 1267 by the illustrious Torah scholar Rabbi Moses Maimonides. Pretty impressive. Wow,
Moses
wow.
Nachmanides. But yes, it's lovely.
But of course, hey, let's not waste time. Come with me.
Yeah, I think I know where you're headed, but...
Just a bit further. Wow, are you in for a treat?
I know where you're going, but that's not...
Are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Ta-da!
The Kotel.
The Kotel Hamaravi, the Western Wall. This is the awesome remnant of the great temple that stood here just beyond this wall, which was destroyed by the Emperor Titus in the year 70. Granted, it's no Great Wall of China, but when a Jew stands here for the first time, wow, Michael, you can really feel the power and the glory. Wow, wow, wow. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
I mean, think about it. Just beyond that wall was the great temple built by King Solomon, and then the second temple. It just blows your mind, doesn't it? I mean, wow, wow, wow. And you know what else?
Wow.
Before King Solomon, before any Israelite ever set foot in this land, Hashem told Moses that this would be the place in which he would set his special holy name.
The place which the Lord your God shall choose to let his name dwell there. And that is Jerusalem, according to Rashi and the Talmud.
According to God himself, God chose Jerusalem.
Eventually, yes, absolutely. I'm just saying that in Deuteronomy, God simply speaks very generically of a place which will serve as a dwelling place for his name.
Which is Jerusalem.
Which is indeed destined to be Jerusalem, yes. But the verse in Deuteronomy, oddly enough, does not refer to Jerusalem by name.
It doesn't? Wow. How come?
Well, according to the 16th century rabbi Chaim ben Betzalel, who was the brother of the illustrious Maharal of Prague, this is because, as the prophet Malachi says, in every place offerings are presented to my name, meaning that anywhere in the world where a Jew can be found praying, that place counts as the place that the Lord your God shall choose.
Wait a minute. So every place is Jerusalem? I am not following you, Michael.
So this is what I meant by private little Jerusalem.
Oh, little Jerusalem. I got it. Come with me. Come with me.
So you see what I mean?
Yes, yes, yes. Little Jerusalem. Come with me. Hey, where you going? Little Jerusalem.
Wait, you're not going to...
Come on now, light on your feet now. Come on. Light on your feet. Just a bit further now.
Is that Gansacker?
Ta-da!
Mini Jerusalem.
Welcome to Little Jerusalem. This is a miniature model of the Holy City as it stood during the Second Temple period. That is, from the year 352 BCE, before the Common Era, until the year 70 CE, that is, the Common Era. Isn't it just so cute?
That's very cute and educational.
It's so cute, I could die.
But I'm talking about another type of Little Jerusalem, a type that's not necessarily found in the land of Israel at all.
You mean like Jerusalem, where you pray to Hashem and offer sacrifices? A Jerusalem could be anywhere. I mean, even Alaska?
Hashem is in Alaska. Hashem is here. Hashem is there.
Hashem is truly everywhere. But look, it says, I mean, I heard, it says in the Talmud that a Jew should always live in Israel because, well, it says that a Jew who lives in Israel has God, whereas a Jew who doesn't is, well, godless.
And as God himself tells the Israelites in the desert, I want to give you the land of Canaan to be your God.
Exactly.
But the Talmudic text that you're referring to from Ktubot, Kuf Yud Amud Beis, needs to be interpreted.
How come? Isn't the meaning obvious? Anyone who lives outside.
Kol hadar bechutza la'aretz, anyone residing outside of Israel. This residing refers to a permanent residence, to someone who strikes roots so deep outside of Israel that they fail to turn in a deep way towards Jerusalem when they're praying. They fail to look forward to the Messianic era when they will actually leave their place of residence and join Mashiach in Israel.
So, residing outside of Israel has to be done with shallow roots?
Messianically speaking, yes. When Mashiach shows up, every Jew should be prepared, excited to leave all the comforts of their home and homeland in order to take up residence in the Messianic landscape of a Messianically transformed Israel.
Where the temple will be rebuilt and the sacrifices will be offered up again.
And it's precisely this readiness to move to a Messianically transformed Jerusalem that ironically makes it possible in the meantime to perform the sacrificial offerings in a spiritual sense outside of Jerusalem.
Spiritual sacrifices? That would be like...
offerings of the heart. In a word, prayer, which can be done wherever you may be.
Wait a second. I think I got it. Come with me.
Again? Oh, I thought that we were already...
Come on in. This is so exciting.
It's a little synagogue.
Ta-da! My little Jerusalem. I mean, Jerusalem is about one's connection with God, right? It's like one's own little private Idaho.
Which need not be in Jerusalem at all. It may well be in Idaho. In every place where I cause my name to be mentioned, namely wherever one connects to God through Torah and mitzvot, I will come to you and bless you. Every such place deserves to be called a private little Israel.
Even Idaho becomes a holy land? Wow.
When your mind and soul are turned to Jerusalem.
I thought Jerusalem was irrelevant.
Not at all.
Oh, I'm so confused.
Jerusalem, Israel, but messianically transformed Jerusalem is in fact the ultimate destination and consummation of all your spiritual strivings. But it can only be actualized as such when the rest of the world has been transformed through Torah and mitzvot into private, local little Jerusalems.
Ouch!
What happened?
Oh, nothing. I just forgot about my hand and it just got stuck here.
Don't forget your right hand, lest your Jerusalem loses its cunning.
Very silly, right? Very, very, very silly. But fun. Definitely fun. Okay. Here's a treat. We haven't seen this one in a while. I think you will get out of this.
This week's Parsha is Parshas Re'eh, and it says in the Pasuk, "Nice and teach and Lord, give you should give." And the obvious question is asked, why the repetition? Why does it repeat itself and say, "Give you shall give"? The answer is given that sometimes when it comes to giving tzedakah, we have an inner struggle. We rationalize. We think, I worked for this money. I don't want to just give it away. So the Torah repeats itself to teach us a lesson to overcome it. It says, "Give you shall give." Continuously be giving. When you continuously are giving, you'll be accustomed to it. And not only you won't grieve when you give, you'll be pleased to see that your money is going to a good use. And as a result of all the tzedakah that we give, may we have the coming of Mashiach right now. The winner for last week's Parsha Trivia is none other than Mendel Brandman from London, England. And the question for this week's Parsha Trivia is, why the repetition? Why does it repeat itself and say, "Give you shall give"? If you think you know the answer, fill it out in the link in the description of this video. Have a good Shabbos. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you next time.
All right. And we talked about the We talked about the name of the Parsha. Rabbi Minkowitz has something to say about that today.
Welcome to this week's Torah lesson. This week's Torah portion is Parshas Re'eh. The question of the week is, what is the huge gift that Moshe Rabbeinu gave us? So in this week's Torah portion, Parshas Re'eh, the Torah begins and it says, Re'eh, see, Anoichi noisem lefnechem HaYom. I am giving to you today bracha, a blessing and a curse. So Rabbi asked, what does Moshe Re'eh, see, I'm giving you? What is Moshe Rabbeinu giving us? Also, it says Re'eh, see. We're hearing, Moshe Rabbeinu is talking to us. Say Shema, hear, Tahavin, understand. What's the idea of Re'eh? So the Rebbe explains and he says something very powerful. He says like this. There's a major difference we know between seeing something, seeing is believing, versus hearing, it's hearsay. It's not 100% accurate. Moshe Rabbeinu tried to elevate us to a whole different level, a level of seeing. Like the famous story of the Arizal once in his sleep, he went up to heaven, and he heard some powerful teachings on the level of seeing. After he got up, he said that if he lived another 80 years, he would not be able to unpack and teach all the teachings he heard that night in 1 hour, even if he lived for more than 80 years. Why? Because when you see something, it's so much deeper. And that is the gift that Moshe Rabbeinu was giving Bnei Yisrael, the ability to see the blessings. Ultimately, when Mashiach comes, we're going to experience the highest level of seeing. Like today, we're standing here in front of you, the Har HaBayis, where the two temples stood. We want to see more. We want to see the third temple. So the answer to the question, what is the gift that Moshe Rabbeinu gave us? Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the gift to see. So I hope and pray that we all get to see the third temple being rebuilt in our days, and we'll all experience the greatest gift of sight of the revelation of Hashem, the relation of Mashiach in this world. This week's Torah lesson is dedicated in memory of Baruch ben Aryeh Leib, Shlomo ben Yosef, and Rachel Bas Lipa. May their souls be elevated by the Torah we're studying in their memory. For more information, please see our website, chabad.swf.org. Have a great and blessed week. Shavua Tov.
All right. We did that. We did a thing. All right. Moving on now to Pirkei Avot. All right. Are you ready? Pirkei Avos, chapter 5, Mishnah Bet 2.
About Pirkei, Mishnah Bet, second Mishnah in the 5th chapter, Masechet Avot. Says the Mishnah, Asara Dor, we're counting the 10s. So the Mishnah says, Asara Dorot me Adam va'Noach. There were 10 generations from Adam HaRishon, from Adam until Noach. Meaning it was a long time, and the Torah describes how each generation was sinful, how they did wicked in the eyes of God. To tell us how compassionate lefanav, how erech apayim lefanav before God, how much there is compassion before God. Because all of these generations were increasing, would be anger God. Ubaim would increase in anger. Until God brought upon them finally the waters of the flood. Meaning that God waited and waited and waited until he could no longer bear it or whatever, until the dam broke, as it were, and then the flood came and destroyed mankind. Similarly, Asara Dorot Minoach ad Abraham, there were 10 generations from Noach until Abraham, and again, those generations weren't so great. Even after Noach came out, then they started killing each other, and then violence and bloodshed, etc. Again, to show you exactly the same language, to show how much compassion there is before God. Same language. All generations were increasing anger. Until Abraham Avinu came and received reward for all of them. I.e., Asa Ma'asim Tovim, he did positive behaviors, corresponding what it was what they all should do. Because therefore all of them were saved in his merit. Now it's very interesting. In the Midrash, there's a lot of comparisons between Noach and Abraham. That both of them were tzaddikim. Abraham was a tzaddik, and Noach was a tzaddik b'dorotav.
Noach was righteous in his generation. Abraham was righteous compared to any generation. So here too, we see that Noach was able only to save himself. Exact same language. Okay, that all the generations increased God's anger, and Noah could only save himself and his family. He couldn't save all the whole world. He could continue mankind, but not save them all. Whereas Abraham was able, through his merit, right? His behavior was he could receive reward for everyone. He also, his presence and what he brought to the world saved the entire world, saved all of mankind. Now it's interesting. I want to show you the Bartenura. Bartenura says this question of that God has a lot of compassion. He says, Af ata, you too. Don't wonder that God is compassionate all these long years that they are subjugating God's children.
That's the